Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy with Crannk here again. Tonight I'm having a chat with Kyle Brandt, vocalist, amazing vocalist who's due to release his debut album under the Molitoth name. Kyle, cheers for making some time to have a chat with Crannk and myself, mate. Horns up from Australia.
Thanks, buddy. It's my pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, dude. Absolute pleasure, man. I've been really enjoying your Tribunal album. But for the uninitiated, man, do you mind just running through who you are and about Molitoth?
Sure. Yeah. So, I fell in love with music probably around my college years and started singing along with some bands that I loved, and casually started getting into trying to find something that I could sing to, while dinking around with multiple instruments, stuff like that, trying to figure out how I could participate in the whole music scene. So after joining a few bands, I landed with a band called A Light Within around 2013. And that's really the first one that took it seriously enough to start branching out. We gained a little bit of a fan base, and while those guys write music really organically, and it's very time consuming. So while I've been waiting, I just kind of set apart to write as much as I could on my own, with some influences from some friends who have done the same thing. So this is it. This is my first I want to call it a solo album because that's the easiest thing to say.
Yeah.
But I do have some friends that have appeared on this, and they've really helped me complete the entire thing, and it wouldn't be what it is without them. So I need to give them credit as well.
Yeah, well, do you want to tell us who you got on your album there then, man? What friends you got on your album? Let's go through them, mate.
Yeah, so my friend Madeline Robertson, that I've known for a long time, she was doing bass and keys in one of my original first bands, and she's kind of a nomad. She travels the US and has always just been a really great musician. So once she came back, I got her hooked up with Pro Tools and started teaching her some of the production side because I really wanted to use some bass lines and some of her mad genius in my album. So once I got her hooked up with all the technology, she was able to record some excellent bass lines and some nice synth and some parts and send them over to me. And some lead guitar as well, and a track or two. So that was the biggest addition to the album. Just there was so many parts that she was integral on that I'm just so appreciative of. And then Taylor Talbot, he does the lead guitar on the last track, which is basically half of it's just a big fat guitar solo. I was like, hey, do you want to throw down on this? And he was like, yeah, sure, let me play around with it. And he recorded a bunch of guitar riffs and sent them back to me. And he goes, which one do you like? And I go, all of them. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, we'll just throw them all in there and just have it like 6 minutes of guitar solo. And he was just like, okay. So that's what that song ended up doing. And then my buddy Brandt, who I've known for a while in the local scene, he wanted to come over and just jam. And he actually ended up doing some of the guitar work on a Confessional Lock, which is the first single. He's doing like kind of the Pink Floyd style, just ambient guitar in there, and it worked really well for that track, and I loved it. So yeah, those peeps.
Yeah, well, there's some amazing contributions in there. You're talking about the bass line. I was listening to your album a bit this morning, it's night over there in the US. Acknowledgement, dude, was like a bass line that really stuck with me. That bass and that kind of sounded really, really cool. The whole album sounded cool, man. It has those moments, but as we were chatting about the bass line, that acknowledgement really stuck out for me. I don't know if that was because of one of the last songs I listened to before our chat now, dude, but yeah, really cool track, man.
Oh, thanks, buddy. That one, I honestly can't even think of how the bass line goes in that one, but it starts out with a very heavy synth related bass that I wrote. When I first wrote that song, it all started with that arpeggio bass line at the beginning, and it really reminded me of Pink Floyd's Welcome to the Machine. So that's where it started out feeling, and that's where it ended up. So
yeah,
it was funny. I sent that around to a few friends, and they were like, "This is really cool. I have no idea what you're going to do vocally to it." And I had to agree. I was like, honestly, this song scares the shit out of me. I don't know what I'm going to do vocally to it either. But in the end, I was happy how it came out. It's a very odd structure. It's not a very poppy like verse chorus structure. It's really experimental.
Yeah, it must be really cathartic to bring out an album like this, because you can go with kind of what you've been wanting to go. You're not going to set yourself into any genre. I listen to your vocals, and as you were talking about the synth vibes, I get those real like the 80s style from your vocals, dude, like the 80s style synth new wave of music, but with the big vocal range and those, just the vocals leading to the music. It must be good to kind of just play around with what you got going with Molitoth, let your vocals work. And like you're saying, these big song structures that kind of scare you, like, what do I do? But it must kind of be fun as well going through this process.
Yeah, it actually is fun, because I'm very mediocre when it comes to any other instrumentation. I can play almost anything, but just not very good at it. So sometimes a lot of songs I just start really with synth. So I'm decent with the keyboard. I can throw a good plug-in in on Pro Tools and come up with some funny sounds or some arpeggios that sound nice. And that's usually how a lot of things start. I got a drum set back there. I'll go back there and do a little, come up with some kind of groove. And then guitar, I just jumped into guitar probably like a year ago. I bought a cheap ass 7-string and tuned it down to A and threw together some kind of tone, and just, I'm not very good at it. So I'm playing 1 or 2 strings max, but I'm just trying to do something a little different with like I try and use some panning techniques or some kind of, or something to make the guitar sound actually a little bit cooler than how horrible I am at playing. But really my goal is to just get something down that I can sing to, because I'm really a singer. So a singer with no music is not, very accomplished. So that's kind of what this was me just throwing down a bunch of experimental noises so that I had something to sing over.
Sing along with. So it's obvious like singing was your first passion, because I talked to a lot of people first and it's like guitars first and then they kind of lead into singing. Yeah, man. So how did you first get into singing?
Man, it's weird, because in like elementary school they introduce you to music class, and I hated that class, because we were always singing these really dumb songs and or playing dumb instruments like the triangle or some kind of shaker or something like, the recorder, hot cross buns, stuff like that. So like that didn't really interest me. I hated music. It wasn't until high school I started getting into music a little bit more. My older brothers got me into Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. My dad was really into the Doors. So like the classic rock era, I really enjoyed that. But it wasn't until college when I probably found the band Incubus, I really fell in love with them. When I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, that's different and really cool. And then after that, like once I started getting online and figuring out other bands that were kind of like them in that genre, I started just getting into all these bands that were amazing that weren't hitting mainstream yet. they were still underground. So I started finding all these underground bands that the mainstream media wasn't feeding us. And I was just like, holy shit, this is like a whole new world. So yeah, I fell in love with some other bands. And then from there on, it was just like I started singing along. I was obviously awful when I first started, but just after hard work and practice, just, I don't know.
Yep. Just kept at it.
Started singing along.
Yeah, just kept at it, dude. As we had a little bit of a jump there, but no, that's really cool. So, as you touched on, we have this amazing music. Usually, probably the same over in the US, where you got to kind of keep scratching under the surface to find, you know, these great bands, because they feed with the mainstream all this stuff that, you know, record labels and companies. And whereas I like to be an explorer with music, dude, I always like to just scratch under the surface. And you're a perfect example, dude. Like the voice with you, man, is unreal. How long were you working on getting this Tribunal out? Like, were you working on your material, songwriting, and things like that?
So, like, it started really slow. I never really had a goal in mind to release a full album. If you told me, like, long ago, I'd be like, that seems like a lot of, you know, like a mountain to climb. I wasn't looking forward to that at all. You know, Incarceration, the very last riff, I wrote some of that music on my iPhone in a doctor's office one day, just sitting around bored. Same with Acknowledgement, just the main melodies, just writing stuff on that. And then like all of a sudden, a couple years later, I'd compiled, you know, just a handful of riffs that I thought were cool ideas that could go somewhere. But it really wasn't till about a year ago when I was just kind of sitting around with nothing to do and decided to get on my drum set and buy a guitar and really try and push forward some ideas. And then calling up some friends and saying, hey, do you want to come over and jam? And then saying yes, that I was like, it really started to avalanche. Like I got Confessional Lock done in a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, that really wasn't that hard. If I keep putting this much effort into it, I could have something here. So I kept going and going. And then once I got Madeline involved, she was feeding me all kinds of ideas throughout these songs. And it just kind of, all of a sudden I was done with 53 minutes of music. And I was just like, holy shit, what do I do? This is crazy. I never thought that this would happen. So, yeah.
Yep. The track Send Me an Angel, dude, that one's got some really cool hooks in it. It has, that one is one of the tracks that really gets you into it, dude. Can you tell me a little bit about that track, Send Me an Angel? Because it's got some amazing hooks in it. It really grabs you, that song. It's got a cool chorus you can just sing along to. No worries. It stands out really cool on the album, man. Done well.
All right, buddy. So this might blow your mind, but that's a cover song.
Yeah.
That's a cover song.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's an Aussie band, right?
Yeah.
Real life, yeah. So I've always loved that song. In the U.S., there was a movie that came out in I think it was early 90s. It was called The Wizard.
Yep.
And it was about this video game kid that went to anyway, they played that song in the movie. And as a kid watching it, for some reason, that song always stuck with me.
Yep.
And for my other project, A Light Within, one of my guitar players texted me one day and he's like, hey man, we should cover Send Angel by Real Life. And I was like, oh man, I've always loved that song.
Yep.
And they do that sometimes. They'll randomly text me with, we should cover this, we should cover that. And I always say, okay, but it never goes anywhere. We've never released a cover with that band. But so I was like, okay, whatever. So I was bored that day. I opened up Pro Tools and I started writing, trying to figure out the structure to that song. I dumped it in there. Started trying to mimic it with what I could do. And in a Saturday afternoon, the majority of that song was all written. And I was just like, wow, I really nailed this. And I kind of put my own spin on it. So I think I wrote that song in an afternoon or maybe a weekend. And then I sent it off to those guys and goes, here's what I got. What do you want to do to it? And they were kind of like, holy shit, this is really good. Like, I don't even know what to do to it. And it kind of, like, the way I took it didn't really fit with that project anyway. So think that kind of was just like, they didn't know what to go. And so after sitting on it for a few months, I was just like, you know what? I mean, this is it. I kind of took it off into this own thing, and I'll just throw it on my own album and see what happens. So I kind of feel bad, like, because those guys wanted to cover it, but it just went in such a different direction that it wasn't going to fit.
It wasn't going to fit with them. And that's kind of good doing these projects for yourself, because you kind of have that freedom to put songs like this in and have a little bit of a play around with these covers that are just really cool, man, and sit good right in the middle there. So
yeah, it's really good to experiment. That's basically what this whole album was. This is experimentation mixed in with the album theme.
Yep. Can you tell me about the little meditation tracks you got going on in there, dude? Because that's really cool, eh?
Yeah, it's a little different. I don't know. Yeah. I hope that no band has ever done that before. If they have, I haven't ever heard it, so I didn't copy. But yeah, it's like a couple years ago, I was trying to take doing vocals more seriously, and with that, you know, singing a lot of times is about breathing. And I needed to calm myself down and get really zen and breathe through my diaphragm and do the right things on stage in order to pull off my vocals live. So I started getting into meditation, especially and then once I started getting into hypnosis as well, and coming across some wonderful artists who produce this stuff online. I don't know how I got the idea to combine it in my album. I just did one time. I was like, that'd be really cool to start off a track with some kind of spoken word. And it was Confessional Lock that did it. So that first meditation on the album, I found her voice, and I was in love with her voice. And I was like, I got to sample this and get it on there. So I had it as the intro into the song, and it worked out really good. And then I was thinking I should probably do this again. I ended up using the same idea again on the second meditation. And then I was like, well, shit, by now this is just a theme. So I can do one more and make it kind of a concept album. I thought was pretty cool, because I've always been into concept albums. So if it has a concept, I put a little bit more like pride into it. Some of my favorite albums are concept albums, so I kind of wanted to go that route with it.
Yeah. Kind of come back to, probably, as you're saying, you're a bit of a Pink Floyd fan, Space the Wall, because for me, that was like the first real concept album I really experienced. I think I was about 16, and it just blew my mind, dude. And from there, I've just, I know the experience of listening to albums has kind of been a thing for me. I really enjoy getting an album and listening to it from track one right through to track, you know, whatever. It has that feel.
Yeah, The Wall was crazy, especially the movie. But I wasn't honestly a huge fan of The Wall. It was more so Animals. Animals was the Pink Floyd album for me. The concept behind that and just the musicality is just amazing. It's crazy that the band was going through so much turmoil when they made that record, because it's my favorite of all time, probably. Another big one was Dredge. If you ever got into Dredge, they had a concept album called El Cielo, and it was about sleep paralysis. And they had all these different like songs that they were titled after paintings by Salvador Dali, and also like they had little instrumental interludes called like paint or brush strokes. So they were tying in this concept into art, which I always thought was really amazing as well. So anything that has something that you can dive into a little bit extra beyond the music.
Yeah, exactly. It is good to get into those albums and, you know, just go a little bit further, because I've listened to quite a few concepts albums now, and I love having the story involved with it all from start to finish. And especially like your vocal range, unreal, and you can really portray that. Can I ask, I got reading there that you're a student of Daniel Tompkins from TesseracT, dude. Can you tell us a little bit about that, dude? What you've done there?
Yeah, certainly. So I discovered TesseracT back in maybe 2012 or so. One of my buddies was like, hey, have you ever listened to them? And I was like, no, and I'll give them a shot. So I went out to YouTube and searched something, found something I wasn't really, digging on it. And then a couple weeks later, another buddy goes, you listen to TesseracT? I was like, yeah, but I just didn't. And they were like, no, go listen to this. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I went to YouTube and found the Concealing Fate sessions, which they did live off of the album One. And it was Daniel singing. Well, the first, I think the first time I went to search for him, I found one of their other singers. If you know the band, they've been through like 4 or 5 singers, but so Daniel was singing that, and I was just like, holy shit, this kid's amazing. They're doing something completely different that I had never heard before. And then I kind of followed him from there on, and he actually left TesseracT for a while and joined a band called Sky Harbor. And at that point, he started getting more social media friendly, opening himself out there, and then he started offering like vocal lessons. And at that point, I was really intrigued, and I was starting to get more serious into it, trying to make myself better. And my wife was like, hey, if you want to get vocal lessons by him, I'll buy them for your anniversary present or birthday present, something like that. So I was like, okay, that'd be amazing. Yeah. So she ended up getting me a Skype session, and that's how we started out, was over Skype. Just him teaching me some basics, and we did a couple of those. And then soon after that, he opened up a vocal coaching website to where you subscribe for the service, and you get all these videos like teaching you how to do all of these things that you need to do to be a good singer. And really, like, having those at my fingertips anytime I want has been amazing. Because I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of times where I'll lose focus for a while and not really live a good singer's lifestyle, and I'll need to get myself back into it, right? So like, I'll go visit the website, go through all the videos, get my breathing back in shape, start getting the proper techniques to get back in shape through that. So he's done wonders for me, just not even talking to him daily, just be learning from how much he's put himself out there and been willing to teach other people from his experiences.
Yep. Can you tell me a little bit about the recording and production process? Because I'm gathering you being heavily into the music producing side of things, you would have done a lot of that yourself. Do you mind talking to me about your recording and production process for this album?
So, like, I think in 2013 with The Light Within, I was kind of just like, okay, I'm going to buy Pro Tools and I'm going to dive in and I'm going to try and produce my first recordings, my EP. And we did that, and of course it sounded like crap. But over the past like 7 years, I've just spent time getting better and better within Pro Tools and figuring out what I can do to improve upon everything. And of course, to the people that I idol, I'm still like way far away from what they can produce. But I think I've made a good jump over the last 7 years. I'm putting out, some quality stuff that I'm proud of. And, it sounds better than a garage band, like setting up a mic and recording and sending out to people. So, I'm proud of it. Especially vocally, I think I'm doing some things that might be unique, at least I think. But I still have a lot to learn. It's a profession that can learn and sponge from anybody you meet that does it, regardless if they have like a year of experience or 40 years of experience. There's something to learn within a DAW that you can always, look forward to learning something.
Yeah, well, that's the key, isn't it? To always be taking in things and learning. Even, you as a musician, and everybody in life can probably take a little lesson from that. We can always learn and keep growing as people, musicians, evolving and going forward with everything, because that's a spot on point, dude. So can I ask about the label? Who'd you go with for the label wise?
Oh, this is independent. So I
Yeah.
didn't actually do any label shopping.
Sure.
So if there was any label I could be on, it'd probably be Kscope. All the artists on Kscope are amazing. Steven Wilson is probably my favorite artist of the last, 5 years, 10 years. Well, since I discovered him, which is probably 6-7 years ago. Daniel Tompkins' solo stuff's on Kscope, TesseracT's on Kscope, Pineapple Thief's on Kscope. There's so many good artists on there. But honestly, like, you can't make the shots you don't take, and I didn't take it, so I didn't submit to them. But they're so far out of my league that I just didn't do it. But yeah, they're an amazing label. That's what I'd be on. And you know what? This is a hobby for me.
Yeah.
So I think those big labels like that, they want artists that are doing this stuff daily, like it's their job, it's their life, they're putting everything into it, right? Those are the artists they can make money off of. So that's kind of the reason why I'm hesitant to label hunt, because this is a hobby for me, and I have a full-time job and a family to support. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be pumping out material, but
Yeah, man. And that's the thing too, having a project like this, it's good, I suppose, to have that feeling of independence, doing what you want to do and going all out on your own, man. So being independent would be even more so important for people to get along and support you with this project, man. Where would be the best place for people to get along and support you and Molitoth?
Oh yeah, I mean, just spread the word, really. Like, I'm not out to make money, so I'm not going to tell everybody to go buy my album. You can go torrent my album for all I care. I mean, obviously it'd be nice to break even, but if you want to give away my album for free to one of your friends and that you think that they would really like it, I am really cool with that. Like, as long as someone, likes it or gets something out of it, like, give it to your friends. I mean, honestly, I've done that with some of my favorite bands. It's just burning a CD for someone and giving it to them and be like, man, you would really like this band. And then, once you get a pal into a certain band, then they buy tickets to go see them live. And then they buy merch to, spread the word more. So a lot of times the music is just kind of like the gateway drug into where the bands can actually make money, which is merch and live shows. And I don't have any intention of taking this project live unless there's a mass demand for it. But like I said, if people want to support me, just come like my Facebook page. You can buy it on Bandcamp if you want, but other than that, just spread the word to your friends. And if they'll enjoy it, then that makes me happy.
Awesome, man. That is so bloody cool to hear, because that's kind of like me, dude. I was the same. Growing up, I'd always be that kind of person who'd come in with new music and a CD, and I'd be like, listen to this, guys. Or I'd be driving along in my car, and I'd have, like, it was a tape deck originally, they don't CDs, and you'd have that brutal stuff cranking, and your mates go, oh, who's this? And you'd be like, oh, yeah, this is such and such. And you chuck them a copy, and you're right, they'd go away to listen to it, and they'd become mad fans themselves. And yeah, they wouldn't initially buy that first, whatever tape or CD you chuck them, but afterwards they're mad. They're buying albums, they're buying the merch. So that's a killer point you make there, eh, Kyle?
Yeah,
cool, man.
Yeah,
cool. Okay.
I did the same, man. I was always burning. I would be the random guy that just shows up, and I'm like, here, have this CD, and they're like, what? Why? And I'm like, because I think you'll really love it,
Yeah.
So, was I giving away a free CD? Yeah, but I was getting someone into that music that probably would have never experienced that anyway. So.
Yeah, and that's it, never experiencing that, because it's really hard to break into the scene, and there's so many talented bands, as we've touched on before, sitting under the underground, and the only way these guys are going to come across it if we've got people like you, me, whatever, going, hey, dude, have a listen to this. And I think a big part of what I do is an extension of that, because I do this for the love of it, dude. I'm like, it's a bigger way of